Okay, go, 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 go!
They came. They came to entertain. They came so we could glimpse into the future. They came to do us proud. They came so we could marvel at the present. They came to show our might.
Westover is an Air Force Reserve base. It's the largest reserve base in the country. And we have a daily mission. Our airplanes fly all over the world. We have 16 C-5A Galaxies. And even today, as we're having this air show, we have an airplane that's flying medical emergency equipment into Rwanda to help the situation there. The men and women that are in the wing and at the base are all volunteers.
They came to spread goodwill.
Seeing as we've been allies for so long, it's just a good feeling to come over here and show the flag and greet and meet the people. It's been good.
To do that job, I think I'm very fortunate to do what I like to know what I'm doing right now.
Yep.
They came with the oldest, preserved with memories, the warbirds, the flying museums. Some came to tell a story. Some came to remember. And others came so we could never forget.
Now you can tell your grandchildren that you rode in a B-25 World War II bomber.
Hey, to get in
You
there,
can't get through there now. You
I
could,
can't go through that. Somebody has to push me through now.
It's the number 4 that was made. It's really not a bomber. It was really a passenger plane. It was made for, reconfigured for Hap Arnold. It was his staff plane.
Now, after 50 years, it'll be, 50 years into this week that we left for England. And, yeah, these 3 of us left.
This is why we're here. It's for guys like him that did all the shooting and the fighting for us.
That airplane is the love of my life, probably because it brought us home every time. It was not a particularly fast airplane, but it could be badly beat up by the enemy and still bring you home.
We, this spring, painted the airplane in the actual Normandy invasion colors in order to basically pay tribute and to salute the people that were, in fact, in on the Normandy invasion.
It's the kids that bring us back.
Is kind of the untold story of World War II.
The A-26 was the first bomber to drop bombs in the Korean conflict and the last one to drop bombs, and it also saw action in Vietnam.
We're trying to show that most Vietnam veterans are regular working people that have families, and we always accent the positive part of being Vietnam veterans. We try very, very hard to get rid of the negative stereotypes of Vietnam veterans.
They came to bring us thrills.
I love it. Wouldn't trade it for the world.
Best ride I've ever been on.
I absolutely love it, you bet. I don't always hate to go to work in the morning, let's put it that way.
Ready, set, go!
They came to the great New England Air Show. They were the great New England Air Show. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand and honor the United States of America with our national anthem. Welcome to the Great New England Air Show. 1994, from the historic Westover Air Reserve Base, serving in the defense of our nation for 54 years and home of the Patriot Wing. The A-10 is capable of short-range takeoff and can get airborne from 3,000-foot airstrips or even from superhighways. From the Massachusetts Air National Guard 104th Fighter Squadron, these 4 A-10A Thunderbolts are also known as Warthogs. Active in the Gulf War, the A-10 is known as one of America's best for close air support. Captain Roland Neisner and Captain Joe Stinger of the German Air Force at 550 miles per hour. With the wings back, they're rolling into a high-speed, maximum effort turn. You can actually see it squeezing moisture out of the air. You can see the wings of this German Air Force Tornado being deployed and moving from full aft position to full forward position. Reese Dill is about to show us what the T-6 Advanced Trainer can do. Although its primary mission was training World War II pilots, the T-6s were brought back into service in Korea as forward air controllers. Air Force T-6 squadrons were then called Mosquitoes because of their unique sound.
The T-6 was designed in 1938 to be a advanced trainer for World War II. It's the last plane people flew before they got into a single-seat fighter like the P-47 or the P-51. You'd have to climb up to 2,500 feet to get enough energy so that I can carry through all the maneuvers through to the end. The T-6 being believe it or not, underpowered for acrobatics close to the ground.
Well, this is the only MiG-15, to my knowledge, doing air shows in the world. So you have to see it here or see this one, or you won't see one at all as far as the MiG-15 anyway. Right after takeoff, I come by and do a high-speed pass, and then I come back and I do what you call a 360-degree turn at show center, and that shows the turning capability of the airplane. And if you look at the wings on it, you can see what they have a thing called high camber. They're kind of a fat little wing, and that allows it to turn really well. And an aircraft that can turn well usually fights well.
Rolling into a 360-degree maximum performance turn at 450 miles an hour. This is truly turn and burn. The F-4 Phantom has been called one of the world's finest all-around military combat aircraft. When they're in afterburners in that airplane, it's sucking down about a ton of fuel every minute. At 36,000 feet, the Phantom is capable of more than twice the speed of sound. There are three ways to get military troops into a combat area: walking in or dropping in by parachuting or rappelling. Once the helicopter is in a hover, the 100-foot rappelling lines are dropped, and the team will demonstrate the technical proficiency and physical conditioning required for this demanding task. The repellers are coming down slowly, but when they have to, they're trained to reach ground in a whistle.
I had found a Yak-11, which is a very fast airplane and built by the Russians. They had produced over 36,000 of them. Today there's approximately maybe 10 to 12, and there's only 5 that are flying. It's very loud, very fast, lots of smoke, and it's different.
Folks, be sure to visit our extensive hangar display during the show. It is truly a collection of the best from the past, as well as the latest technology.
How you doing, sir? Good. You get the baseball cap on backwards. You really could turn that thing around. Whoops, there go the Marines. Everybody turn around and say hi to the Marines.
Hi! We're not just someone that goes to war. We're here to support everybody, and there's so many people that support us. We have groups of people that volunteer their time to help us and support us, and every time we have a crisis, either earthquake or a hurricane or fires like out in California and up in Washington, we're there.
We're a group of World War II enthusiasts representing the Army Air Force from 1941 to 45. I became interested in the group approximately 4 years ago, right here at the air show. What we are basically is a portable museum of Army Air Corps memorabilia. And with the 50th anniversary of World War II upon us, we hope to educate the public. And we'd like the young people of today to know that the Army Air Corps played a vital part in winning the war.
Go ahead, it's on fire.
The Doolittle raid was a very daring raid, and it was one which was the turning point for us in the Pacific Theater. Some years ago, I was fortunate enough to meet some of the raiders, and they have donated some of their artifacts, which actually survived the raid, to this exhibit.
I could easily fill out 2 more hangars.
Although we are a reserve base, we do have a worldwide mission, and we get involved in most of the big news that you see on TV. If there's airlift required, eventually the C-5s from Westover and the crews from Westover will become involved in that. We can carry up to 265,000 pounds of cargo. We have an unlimited range due to our air refueling capabilities. So while we're reservists, we still have a full-time worldwide mission, and we get involved whenever we can to make the world a better place. It's always nice to see something relative to something that we're familiar with. The aircraft cargo compartment can carry 6 large tour buses. We can carry, the weight would not be a factor, it would just be the size. So 6 large tour buses, 2 by 2 by 2. We could carry 2 130,000-pound tanks. Our basic weight is 375,000 pounds, and then fuel and cargo can bring the airplane weight up to 769,000 pounds. Peacetime, or during Desert Storm, we were up to 840,000 pounds. So the airplane can carry a substantial amount, plus upstairs on the second level, we have crew seating for approximately 20 up front, and then 75 passenger seats in the rear. We like to think that we do make a difference.
The purpose of the heavily armed AH-1 Cobra, commonly referred to as the Muscle, is to protect the scout by suppressing enemy fire. The Cobra is armed with one 7.62 millimeter machine gun capable of firing 4,000 rounds per minute, and a 40 millimeter grenade launcher capable of 400 rounds per minute. It also carries 38 2.75-inch rockets. And finally, the Cobra carries 8 wire-guided and optically sighted missiles, which are capable of defeating any tank currently in use today. The C-17 Globemaster III is designed with the airlift capability of the C-5 and the C-130. It carries half the crew of other military airlift craft. And it is very quiet, a great asset in hostile territory, making it also environmentally friendly.
And Golf Sierra is ready for departure. Sierra, hold in position. Roger.
The C-130 Hercules is the world's most versatile and widely used turbine-powered heavy transport. It is the largest aircraft ever to land on an aircraft carrier without using a tailhook arrest. In an airplane traveling at 130 knots, It takes approximately 3.2 seconds for an entire parachute deployment sequence to take place. When jumping from 1,400 feet, the idea is to get the canopy to face into the wind. With some gores removed, these canopies are slightly steerable. Ladies and gentlemen, let's recognize our special forces.
Our primary job is to sweep the skies clear of all enemy fighters. The airplane itself is designed around a radar that can see a long distance and be able to employ the weapons that we use beyond visual range. This aircraft itself shot down in Iraqi Mirage F1 during the first night of the Desert Storm. When I fly the demonstration, I'm normally pulling between 8 and 8.5 Gs while I'm doing some of my hard maneuvers, such as the 360-degree turn. For example, what it would feel like if you were pulling 8 to 9 Gs. If you take a 200-pound body and you subject it to 8 Gs, it's going to weigh about 1,600 pounds in that turn. The blood that's in your head and in your eyes is going to be subjected to the same gravity as the rest of your body, and it will tend to try to pool in your legs. So we fly with G-suits, which are basically inflatable bladder-filled pants, if you will, that hook into the aircraft and inflate with air. That primarily gives you an extra capability to keep the blood in your upper body. That in combination with weight training, and then actually in the aircraft itself, tensing your muscles and grunting, if you will, to try to keep the blood back up into your head becomes a second nature to most fighter pilots after they've done it for quite some time.
The world's first operational invisible fighter.
The aircraft itself is designed to penetrate heavily defended targets without being seen by radar or visually at night, and to drop 2 laser-guided bombs either on one target or 2 targets, and to destroy a critical target with these precision-guided munitions. Okay, the aircraft is capable of high subsonic speeds, roughly 600 to 650 miles per hour at sea level. And that equates to about Mach 0.95 at high altitude. The shape is designed to minimize its radar cross-section, and also has special coating which also absorbs radar energy, so that the aircraft gives off a very small, almost undetectable radar signature. The aircraft was used very extensively during Desert Shield and Desert Storm, had a very good success rate in the destruction of the targets that it was assigned to hit.
In addition to our aerial demonstrations, you're in for a treat when you meander through our extensive static displays and ground exhibitions of military aircraft and warbirds.
I'm Colonel Jim Gallen, and I'm the Vice Wing Commander here at the 439th Airlift Wing at Westover Air Reserve Base. This year I also happen to be the Air Show Director. This is important to us. Air shows are important because they allow us in the military to show the public what the capability of their Air Force is. It gets them to see where their taxpayer dollar goes. And it also is used as a recruiting tool for us, so we get a chance to show the young men and women out there what the Air Force Reserve has to offer. Just some fantastic flying by a number of branches of service. We have not only the Air Force here, but we have the Army and the Navy and the Marines, and they're all performing out here. The highlight of the show this year, of course, is the Canadian Snowbirds. Some of the other highlights of the show are the Harrier aircraft. That's a vertical liftoff and landing Marine aircraft, and that puts on a tremendous demonstration.
The Harrier is designed as an air-to-ground attack. Primary mission is to support the Marines on the ground in combat. The VSTOL, vertical short takeoff and landing concept, is designed to allow us to deploy closer to the front line so we have more rapid response to support the Marines on the ground.
The CF-18 Hornet, with its high-angle attack maneuverability, is capable of maneuvers that very few jet fighters can do. In addition, the slow-speed handling qualities of the CF-18 are unparalleled by any other fighter in this modern era. CF-18 will also be accelerated at 0.9 Mach and do a 7G pull straight up into the vertical, doing rolls while climbing.
I'll be flying a performance that's quite different than anything you'll see here, either civilian or military. The airplane you see behind me, the Staudiker 300, is the only unlimited class aerobatic airplane that's built in the United States. It'll travel at speeds anywhere from 0 up to 280 miles an hour with a roll rate of over 400 degrees per second. It'll tumble end over end, sideways, fly backwards, rolling as it goes vertical, horizontal, 45s, and a whole display of aerobatics, probably something similar to what you would see in a World Aerobatic Competition, which I just came back from in Europe just 2 weeks ago with the U.S. Aerobatic team. It's built to withstand about 20 Gs positive and about 15 Gs negative, where when I'm flying, I'll only pull about 10 Gs positive and about 7 Gs negative. The feeling that you get from flying an airplane like this is very, very difficult to explain. It's concentration that's so intense that you almost lose sense of the world and the people on the ground and everything around you.
The B-1B is the Air Force's most advanced operational strategic bomber with a 7,000-mile fuel range. The captain tells us he is now going to light the afterburners and stand it on its tail as he climbs unrestricted to altitude to return to South Dakota. The United States Army's parachute team, the Golden Knights, is the Army's only official aerial demonstration team. They are considered the finest parachuting team in the world.
Thank you.
You got the whole thing then?
Got the whole thing. I guess they don't get a tight fit on these things.
Yeah, but don't be flying off the world. Hear me how we turn left.
The Golden Knights begin their aerial demonstrations at an altitude of 12,500 feet, or almost 2.5 miles above the air show site. Let's join them.
was beautiful. It's a little chilly up at altitude. We were at 12,500 feet, and it's about close to 40 degrees cooler at altitude than it is here on the ground. So it was a little chilly, but the sky is clear, the winds are just perfect, and it was really nice.
Westover remembers D-Day. It was a time of sadness. It was a time of triumph. It was a time of fear. It was a time of hope. 1944. It was a time to remember. 1994. Time to honor those who served.
The orders came down the night before that we were going to have an invasion, and the only way to help identify the airplanes as being friendlies was to paint black and white stripes on the airplanes, on each wing, top and bottom, and on all the way around the fuselage. That way, we always knew who was the enemy and who really wasn't. You had to be one step ahead of them.
They came, the warbirds. Some came to remember. Others came so would never forget. And still others came to display their World War II flying museums.
This particular aircraft was built on Valentine's Day in 1944, and immediately afterwards started its trek overseas. It flew in the Normandy invasion. It flew in several campaigns actually in Europe, but Normandy invasion being the most popular. It towed gliders, 2 gliders in the morning, and that same afternoon it flew in skydivers, or paratroopers, and also the following morning it flew in paratroopers.
General Eisenhower at the time, at the end of the war, credited 4 vehicles as the leading pieces of machinery that helped win World War II, and the airplane, and the only airplane that he mentioned, was the Douglas C-47.
It's a real workhorse of World War II. A Catalina that belonged to England discovered the Bismarck, and that was the beginning of the end of the Bismarck. This is the only military version of the Catalina that is on the warbird circuit.
The B-25, I consider probably one of the best aircraft in World War II. I had flown some of the others, and this one here brought me out there and it brought me back home. So I'm very thankful for it. I have a touch of nostalgia. I think the plane might be here longer than I'll be here, but it's nice to take a look at something that carried me so far and so long. I really appreciate it.
I flew 35 missions in the B-17 during World War II over Europe. We flew out of Italy in the 15th Air Force. Well, it's very nostalgic because many of these I've flown, and some of them we had contact with overseas. And you don't remember the bad things that happened over there, but you remember the nice things, and you remember the airplanes that were your favorites. P-51 back here, I got to fly that in the Air Guard at Westover before we turned into jets.
It's commonly referred to as the poor man's P-51 because of the unique sliding canopy, which was a copy or a leftover from the P-51 construction. There is record of General MacArthur using this type of aircraft as his own personal plane during the war in Korea, used as a courier and so-called taxi cab.
You give them all a big wave as they come by.
The main reason they built this was to make the transition to the jets. That's why it's got a tricycle landing here. They still use them in the Philippines as a fighter, because this is what they use to attack the palace when they had that uprising out there. We more or less do it just to give the people a treat to see them and keep them flying. Because one thing about a T-28, nothing sounds like it. It has a tone all by itself.
The aircraft I fly is an A-26C Invader. It's a World War II medium bomber. Was brought into production near the latter part of the war. This particular aircraft was built in 1944. Invaders saw service in the European theater near the end of the war quite extensively for ground attack as well as bombing runs. It normally flew with a crew of 3. You had your pilot, a navigator who was also your bomb aimer, and then a third seat in the back who was your gunner. He operated 2 remote turrets with 250 caliber machine guns. When I do my airshow passes, I can see close to 290 knots, which is around 350, 360 miles an hour.
It was a carrier-based airplane, and the Navy wanted an airplane that could do all 3 jobs in one airplane. Before, they had to use 2 airplanes, one with all electronic gear and one with the weapons to destroy the submarine. And this airplane was the first airplane that was able to find submarines, track submarines, and destroy submarines.
The aircraft was built by Messerschmitt. It was first designed in 1933. In 1936, it was designed under the Treaty of Versailles. And in 1936, the Germans took this aircraft, narrowed the fuselage, put 1,000 horsepower, brought the wings in at 2.5 feet, and they had the 109 fighters. So it's the predecessor to the fighter version. Throughout the war, each squadron had 2 or 3 of them, and they're used as a liaison, strictly to transport people. It never had any weapons on it. It was strictly used as a transport. But it is rare. There's 24 in the world. Out of the 24, I think there's 2. Confederate Air Force has one. There's one at Duxford that doesn't fly very often, and then one in California that's used only for movies.
This was a good bit faster, and it's air conditioned and more comfortable. So it was really the one that came in right after the DC-3 and took over as the major carrier. After this, it went into the jet age. They were the turboprop type aircraft and the jets. So this was kind of the last hurrah for the big radio engine, reciprocating engine type aircraft.
Ladies and gentlemen, the feature aerial demonstration of the Great New England Air Show, Canada's precision military aerobatic team, the Snowbirds, demonstrating the skill, professionalism, and teamwork of the Canadian Armed Forces. They fly the Canadair CT-114 Tudor, used by the Canadian Forces as its basic pilot aircraft. From the 431st Air Demonstration Squadron, Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, the Snowbirds.